Before my elder sister entered the palace to become empress, she bowed her head and instructed me, Ting, when I am gone, you must protect yourself. I answered with tears in my eyes. 5 years later, the empress fell from favor. Framed by treacherous men, she lost her virtue and hanged herself that very night. The emperor decreed, the deposed Empress Meng lacks virtue. No mourning attire shall be worn throughout the capital. I pleaded the Meng family's guilt, and because of my striking beauty, His Majesty brought me into the palace, where I became the most favored among the 6 palaces. On the day I dragged the emperor into the flames to die together, he choked me in fury. I have been generous to your Meng family. Because of you, I didn't even hold that disgraced, deposed empress accountable for her loss of virtue. As flames licked my body, I remained unmoved. I do. When I awoke, I had returned to the day my elder sister entered the palace. She stroked my head, then turned and entered that palace of devouring men. I shed my finery and jewels, then turned and entered the blood-soaked military camp. I'll see if that dog emperor dares utter the words disgraced empress when my troops surround the imperial city. Main text: the carriage escorting my elder sister to the palace halted outside the courtyard. The matrons and eunuchs in charge of her training filed in one after another, while chest after chest of gold and silver rewards were carried into the mansion. The entire capital now knew, the eldest daughter of the Meng family had been chosen by His Majesty at the mid-autumn banquet, summoned to the palace, and would soon be crowned empress. Ever since His Majesty's first wife passed away, the empress's throne had remained vacant for years. For the Meng family to produce an empress was truly a blessing worthy of ancestral spirits rising from the graves. Thus, the entire household was filled with festive joy, save for one quiet, secluded courtyard that remained cold and desolate, devoid of any sign of celebration. My elder sister, Meng Xiqiong, just as in my previous life, came to my small courtyard before her departure. She stroked my head and urged earnestly, Ting, once I enter the palace, I won't be able to look after you anymore. You must protect yourself and never allow yourself to be wronged. I lifted my eyes to meet hers. She remained the familiar figure, her complexion as rosy as cinnabar, her jade-like face softly flushed, her eyes like spring water. Graceful and poised, dignified and serene, she radiated the refined grace of a well-bred young lady. She had always been this way since childhood, unassuming, gentle, and understanding. She raised me as her own, a sister who became a mother. She died deep within the palace walls. I never saw her one last time, nor did I ever hear her call me a Ting again. Meng Xiqiong paused. I've left something for you. These silver notes came from selling off some estates and shops the day before yesterday. Hide them well, lest anyone discover them. This jade pendant belongs to my maternal family. If you encounter trouble, seek out my uncle. He will help you. The Meng residence is no place of kindness, Ting. If you can, leave as soon as possible. Living freely and unfettered isn't such a bad thing. These words, she never spoke to me in my past life. When I looked at her again, I saw that my sister's eyes, which always held a spring-like smile, seemed frozen by something, carrying a chill. In just one glance, I understood, she had returned too. But I said nothing, only read in my eyes as I had in my previous life, Sister, take care. Ting, take care. Meng Xiqiong turned and walked away. The clatter of hooves grew fainter and fainter. I slipped off my gown and jewelry, changing into a pair of light trousers. Taking the silver notes and jade pendant my sister had given me, I tucked them into the hidden pocket sewn into my clothes. Stepping outside, I cast one last glance at the desolate courtyard before scaling the wall with practiced ease. My destination was clear, the Lin residence, my elder sister's maternal family home, now the residence of the current general of the flying cavalry. I was Meng Xiting, the most insignificant concubine-born daughter of the Meng household, possessing nothing but a pretty face. My elder sister, Meng Xiqiong, however, had been gifted with brilliance since childhood. With a face like a celestial being, she excelled in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Her manners and bearing were flawless, earning her the title of the capital's foremost lady. My birth mother passed away when I was young, and I was raised under the care of the lady of the house. Born into the Lin family, she was a quintessential warrior's daughter, once a battlefield commander who led cavalry charges. Now, however, she was confined to the manor, spending her days tending to her husband and raising her children. She had only one daughter, my elder sister. Due to her reserved nature, she was not favored. Occasionally, she would stare blankly at her unsheathed sword. She practiced swordsmanship openly before us, just as she studied military strategy. But the lady suffered from a chronic ailment. In my 4th year there, she passed away from her illness. My elder sister was brilliant, gifted in military strategy and tactical discourse. What the brothers in our household struggled to grasp, she understood instantly. Even her written work was flawless, beyond reproach. I, however, was restless by nature. After Lady Meng examined my bones, she praised my exceptional aptitude, and so I persisted, training in martial arts with her daily. Before her passing, Lady Meng left me several military treatises and martial manuals. Though I couldn't comprehend them, my elder sister willingly explained them to me in detail. After years of study, my martial skills advanced, and moving in and out of the Meng residence became as easy as turning my hand, often unnoticed. Alas, we were women. These things unsuitable for public display, we could only share with each other. When my elder sister and I played chess, she always gave me a 3-stone handicap. I'd whine for a rematch, offering her all the snacks I'd sneaked out to buy as bribes. She'd laugh, poke my nose, and ask where I'd been off playing. I'd chuckle and share my day's adventures with her. She borrowed my eyes to observe the world, while I lay across her lap, listening to her analyses of the realm's affairs. During her years in the palace, I believed that as long as I quietly protected the Meng family and caused her no trouble, she would remain safe. I was wrong. The night our elder sister hanged herself, I jolted awake. Barefoot, I paced the courtyard, oblivious to the rain falling around me. I was restless, yet couldn't pinpoint why. Rumors spread through the capital that she had betrayed her marital vows with a guard. The emperor, enraged, stripped her of her empress title. He forbade the city from mourning her and denied her entry into the imperial mausoleum. Only when our father, Minister Meng, head of the Meng clan, went to plead for forgiveness, even going so far as to sever family ties by expelling her from the clan registry, did the emperor's wrath subside. She was no longer a Meng woman, nor Empress Meng. She became a nameless, homeless spirit. On the 7th day after her death, the city reveled in song and dance, while our mansion hung festive lanterns, yet not a soul awaited her return. Later, when Minister Meng sent me to the palace, the world forgot even more. Now, the favored consort Ro, who reigns supreme among the 6 palaces, has a sister, the once renowned Empress Meng of the capital. Who in this world, besides me, would remember her? Since the Meng family could not protect her, I would protect her. I sat in the main hall of the Lin residence. "Ah, she has spoken of you," declared the man seated at the head of the table, his voice booming like a bell. He was tall and imposing. "You must be the child she carried away?" He was none other than the current general of the flying cavalry, Lin Yuanshan, also my sister's maternal uncle. I nodded in acknowledgement. After the initial pleasantries, the man in blue robe seated beside the head of the table cut straight to the point. "You came bearing Sichion's jade pendant. Is there something you need my assistance with?" He was my sister's uncle, the current general of the southern frontier, Lin Shao. When my sister died, Lin Shao was accompanying General Lin on a campaign. Upon receiving the sudden tragic news, they were ambushed, and he perished on the battlefield. Worse still, a traitor within the camp had fed General Lin false intelligence. As a result, the entire Lin family army was annihilated, their bodies wrapped in horsehide, a tragic loss that drew widespread lament. Only after entering the palace did I learn this had been orchestrated by the one above, aiming to seize the Lin family's military power. I looked at him. I wished to enter the military camp. "What did you say?" "I wish to join the military camp," I repeated. I need the general to provide me with an identity and lend me support when I require it in the future. He stared at me as if I were a monster. Do you realize this is treason? The Lin family's power is vast. If we wish to preserve ourselves, we must step back while the tide is high. Now is the time for someone to shoulder the legacy passed down by the Lin family. Unfazed, I replied earnestly, I can do it. If I fail, the Lin family can disown me. At these words, the other Lin family members paled visibly. Young lady, the general of the flying cavalry remained unperturbed, merely waving his hand as he asked, what do you want? I want to go to the battlefield and carry on the lady's unfinished work. I paused before adding, my martial arts and military strategy were taught to me by the lady. She never wanted me confined to the inner quarters for life. The general shook his head. You're lying. It was indeed a lie. The lady had never spoken of her own desires, nor had she ever guided me toward any particular path. All of this was merely my own conjecture. I fell silent for a long moment. I want to save someone. I want to save someone. Even if it means climbing mountains of blades or crossing seas of fire. Before you arrived, I received a letter from Cheonger. She said exactly the same thing as you, hoping the Lin family would step back from the torrent. General Lin rose to his feet. I'm at this age now. It's not that I crave power, but Hurong remains unconquered. I simply can't bring myself to accept it. Since you've given your reason, and Cheonger even gave you her jade pendant, this old man will trust you this once, youngster. But remember, my daughter Lin Shijuan, Lin Changshan's daughter, was a fierce warrior who fought 10 enemies single-handedly before her wedding day. The battlefield is treacherous. I won't let a young girl like you risk her life. You say she taught you martial arts? Prove it to me. Lin Xiao. He called to Lin Xiao, bring third young master over. Lin Xiao frowned. Father. Every son of the Lin family is a fierce warrior. Third young master is my grandson, your peer. I raised him myself and took him on campaigns for a year. General Lin said casually, if he lasts through the burning of a stick of incense, I'll personally escort you into the camp. Hearing this, the Lin family members were all shocked, and Lin Xiao grew even more anxious. Father, she's just a young girl. Perhaps she's acting on a momentary impulse. General Lin paid no heed, his gaze fixed solely on me. I met his stare without flinching. Yes, I will do my utmost. I had heard of Lin Jinyue, the third son of the Lin family. Legend had it he was breathtakingly handsome, the finest horseman and archer among the young men of the capital. Last year, accompanying his grandfather on a campaign, he rode solo into enemy territory, returning with the head of an enemy commander. His military exploits were legendary. Now he stood before me. His sword remained unsheathed, yet an aura of lethal intent already pressed close. I knew it, the blood-soaked aura forged on the battlefield. He was a warrior who had truly spilled blood. Lin Jinyue's eyes were like cold stars. Begin. I bowed, drew my sword from its scabbard. On the battlefield, there is no distinction between men and women. Only by mastering the sword in your hand can you protect those you hold dear. Countless nights after my sister's death, I was consumed by agony, hating my own powerlessness. Though I could draw my sword, I was forced to don flowing sleeves and dance instead. Though I seethed with hatred for the emperor, I smiled sweetly each night, bending to his whims. Though I was born simple and unassuming, I learned to grovel and flatter, becoming a wolf in sheep's clothing. I plotted countless ways to assassinate him, practicing swordplay night after night. Weapons are forbidden in the palace, so I wielded bamboo branches as swords, capable of piercing through air and sinking 3 inches into wood. But no matter what I did, my sister would never return. The weight of it all suffocated me. Occasionally, I wondered what I would do after killing him. I cannot think of anything. Even after learning she had returned, I dared not reveal myself to her. I feared she would ask how I had fared since, if I had taken care of myself, why I had returned just like her. I dared not meet her eyes, dared not confess I had burned myself in the flames, dared not tell her that aiding was already unrecognizable. I only came to realize, the emperor is incompetent and tyrannical, the people suffer under his rule, then we must establish a new emperor. My sister cares for the realm, possesses a compassionate heart, and has the talent to govern the heavens and earth. Her strategic essays surpass those of the useless fools, and the military doctrine she taught the Lin family made them invincible in battle. Why shouldn't she be emperor? I will be her hound, her sharpest sword, her fiercest tiger. Everything I encounter now is an obstacle. My purpose tolerates no obstacles. A cold gleam flashed. Weapons clashed. In Lin Jinyue's suddenly widened eyes, the borrowed wooden sword had already sliced away a lock of hair from his temple. The hall fell silent. I lowered my gaze. Thank you for the lesson. Everyone was caught off guard, staring blankly at the defeated Lin Jinyue and me sheathing my sword. Applause erupted in the courtyard. Excellent! 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 General Lin clapped his hands, repeating the word 3 times. From this day forward, you are the young man I chanced upon in the countryside, a boy blessed with extraordinary strength whom I guided. Now, I recommend you to the military camp. Your name is Si Jun. He looked at me. In a moment of distraction, I blurted out that name. Lady Lin Shijuan, my elder sister Si Cheong and I, citing, both bear names she bestowed. She would occasionally sit by the window, her presence filled with a sense of desolation. Si Cheong and Sitten, but not Si Jun, she sighed to us. When you have the chance, go see the mountains and rivers. The world is vast, go see whatever you find beautiful. Never let your heart be tied to just one person. My elder sister and I were young, so we only half understood. But from that day on, I sensed something vaguely, that a person was buried deep within the lady's heart. Just as after her death, that person was forever buried in my heart and my elder sister's. Thinking of Cheong, thinking of Ting, also thinking of you. Hearing this name, General Lin froze. Then his lips trembled. A man of 8 feet tall, his eyes were unexpectedly reddened. He turned his face away as if to hide it. The wind in the capital is sweet as honey, stinging my eyes. Yet none of the Lin family called him out, for the elder's eyes were all reddened too, especially Lin Xiao's. His fists clenched tightly, then slumped limply open after a long moment. He was the brother his wife cherished most, the uncle her eldest sister adored above all others. When word reached them that the Empress's marriage was decreed by His Majesty, an imperial command impossible to defy, the once feared female general who had galloped across battlefields became a reclusive lady of the inner quarters. The Lin family exhausted their military merits trying to rescue her from that quagmire, yet could only watch helplessly as she withered away. I bowed. Your humble servant, Si Jun, greets the general. If you're going to save someone, then prove your worth. General Lin patted my shoulder, his voice barely audible. I understood his meaning. He had failed to save Lin Shijuan, so he hoped I would save Meng Xiqiong. I lifted my gaze, my eyes serene. The Lin family, loyal to the bone, had been discarded like a used donkey, left to be slaughtered at others' whim. But I had long desired to kill the emperor and my father, a truly disloyal, unfilial, unkind, and unrighteous wretch. Had I gone mad? Perhaps I had long since lost my mind. Though the Jing dynasty's territory was vast, it faced Hurong tribes to the north and Japanese pirates to the south. The southwest was rife with poisonous miasmas and swarms of snakes and vermin. Coupled with coastal rains and pirates skilled in water warfare, General Lin had spent years pacifying the waterways. The Hurong kingdom in the northwest was another matter entirely. The nomadic tribes of the Great Desert were fierce warriors. The Hurong kingdom could be called a nation of soldiers, where even 3-year-old children could ride horses and fight wolves. For years, the two nations had maintained a truce, each minding their own affairs. The Hurong kingdom possessed elite troops, and border skirmishes were frequent, clearly signaling their restless ambitions. Yet His Majesty clearly has no desire for war. Or rather, he refuses to send Lin Yuanshan to fight the Hurong again. Lin Yuanshan already boasts illustrious military achievements and immense popular support. Should he earn further glory, his stature among the people would soar even higher. Coupled with his possession of the imperial tiger token, the emperor fears nothing more than a general whose achievements overshadow his sovereign. Yet in his previous life, Lin Yuanshan ultimately chose to subdue Hurong for the sake of the common people. He was betrayed by a pawn planted within the Lin family army by the emperor, meeting his end with his glorious achievements buried beneath the earth. This life would be different. After repeated persuasion from the Lin family and earnest letters from his elder sister, General Lin chose to retire. He surrendered his military token, and as we anticipated, the emperor granted his resignation. Yet, to avoid discouraging the generals, he bestowed General Lin's tiger token upon Lin Shao, commanding him to lead the troops in his father's stead. I cut off my long black hair, bound my chest, and veiled my face, formally entering the military camp as a common soldier. General Lin personally escorted me into the camp, yet granted me no special favors. I understood this was to prevent my identity from drawing attention. Before departing, I turned back on horseback to cast one final glance at the majestic capital city. This farewell meant I knew not when we might meet again. See June? I turned my head. I'm coming. Lone smoke rises over the desert, the setting sun dips into the river. The northwest desert appeared desolate and uninhabited, while the border city stood heavily guarded. After months of marching, we finally reached our encampment. Lin Shao began organizing training drills. While the new recruits often found the training grueling, I completed it with ease, consistently ranking first. The new soldiers treated the veterans with utmost respect and deference, but I remained neither humble nor arrogant, treating everyone equally. Combined with my taciturn nature and solitary ways, trouble soon found me. "Hey, kid!" After training, as I bandaged my scrapes, a veteran soldier tapped my shoulder. "Heard General Lin personally escorted you into camp. Looks like you've got some skills. Care to spar?" Unspoken gazes gathered around us. Competition was rife in the barracks, and with soldiers being naturally combative, such sparring matches were commonplace. Refusal was an option, but backing down before the fight began would only invite contempt in this environment. I wouldn't refuse. I wasn't like my sister, skilled in socializing, but I had my own methods. I wrapped the bandage tightly around my wrist, then looked up. "Anyone else want to spar with me?" The crowd gasped. The veteran's face darkened instantly. Arrogance knows no bounds, he sneered after a moment. "Looks like I'll have to teach you the camp's rules." In this contest, I didn't use a sword. I used only my fists. When the burly man before me crashed heavily to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust, I seized his throat. Meeting his terrified gaze, I slowly tightened my grip. I stood up, loosening my wrists. Next. Thud. Next. Thump. By the time I'd knocked down the last veteran challenger, the onlookers stared at me as if I were a freak. Their gaze held no contempt, only awe. The battered veteran, sprawled on the ground with a bruised face, suddenly burst into laughter. That was satisfying. Absolutely satisfying. "You look like a bookish weakling, but you pack quite a punch. No wonder the general values you so much yet hasn't assigned you a position. He must be counting on you to fight your way up eventually, right? Damn impressive. How'd you train? Share the secrets with us. Looks like our battalion's about to gain another secret weapon. My wife sent me some jerky I haven't brought myself to eat yet. Here, have a couple pieces." Surrounded by them, I flashed a smile. Sure. That's how it is around here. If you don't respect someone, beat them into submission. In the barracks, of course, the one with the strongest fists commands the most respect. Not far away, a man clad in armor watched the scene silently. Is this the person you wanted to recommend to me? Lin Xiao smiled. Not bad, right? He's a promising prospect. The man kept his eyes fixed on the figure. He looks very much like. He didn't name the person, but they all knew exactly who he meant. Lin Xiao paused for a few seconds, then patted his shoulder. Ying Qi, we're all confident leaving this child in your care. She can't be linked to the Lin family, at least not yet. Understood. He turned and walked away, his cloak billowing behind him. Inside, a character embroidered there had worn away to illegibility. It resembled the character, Yin. Life in the military camp was harsh, yet strangely liberating. Friction between the Hurong and Jingchao tribes persisted, though major conflicts were rare, mostly skirmishes and raids. After leading several successful campaigns against Hurong squads, I received repeated commendations. Now I commanded my own squadron, the youngest centurion in the camp. Summer arrived, bringing relentless downpours to the Jianghuai region, while the desert remained mostly dry and sunny. Occasionally, news from the capital reached me. It was said the Empress Dowager was benevolent, opening numerous charity halls and academies, distributing porridge to disaster-stricken areas, and voluntarily fasting. Even palace expenditures were significantly reduced, earning her the admiration of the realm. Many poets composed verses in her honor, extolling her benevolent heart. Even the emperor issued several sound edicts, ones that struck me as odd, more likely her handiwork. How she managed to sway the emperor into heeding her counsel remains a mystery. Yet I'm not surprised. Sister has always been wise and kind. Given another chance, she'd accomplish even more. This time, without me, she'd likely thrive just fine. Xiqiong has written again, Lin Xiao murmured when we were alone, using her name rather than your Majesty as we always did. Why won't you tell her you're here? I sat grinding my sword on a stone, head still lowered. I don't want her worrying about me. Lin Xiao snorted with a chuckle. You little rascal. Have you considered how we'd explain things to her if something happened to you? My hand paused on the stone. I looked up. Just tell her I've gone traveling. I'll prepare dozens of letters. You send her one every 6 months. Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao nearly choked. I was just joking. You actually took it seriously? I stood up, sheathing my sword. I won't die. I wonder who you take after with that temperament, Lin Xiao said, pausing. A teenager, so rigid and serious, never smiles. Xiqiong was gentle and obedient, and your mother loved to laugh and play. I gave him a puzzled look. When was the lady ever playful and cheerful? The lady I remembered was serious and reserved, radiating a cold detachment. Lin Xiao froze, the smile fading from his face. She loved wearing red. She was a skilled swimmer, diving into the sea to fight enemies. The Japanese pirates would shit themselves every time they saw her, calling her the fire-like assassin. He said with a sigh. I'll never forget it. We were in the southwest back then. After she dove into the sea, she surfaced and smiled radiantly at me. She shook the water droplets from her hair, and a rainbow arched over her head. I told the people around me, my sister is like a goddess. I listened intently, yet no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't connect this vibrant young girl with the lady who always wore blue robes. But I could imagine what that scene must have been like. She had a magnificent steed, a snow-hoofed beauty tamed only by her. No one else could ride it. Lin Xiao's gaze drifted distant. Before she returned to the capital, she set that horse free. Later, the horse would always come back to our encampment. Not seeing her, it would circle once and then leave. Time has flown so swiftly. It's been ages since I last saw her. We fell silent, gazing at each other for a long while. He turned away. Intelligence reports indicate the Hurong tribe plans to seize this grain convoy. We'll discuss urgent matters in the general's tent shortly. You should attend. I was somewhat surprised. Was military intelligence like this something a centurion like me could hear? But Lin Xiao quickly gave me the answer, it has nothing to do with me. Ying Qi specifically requested your presence. No one else objected. His tone was familiar, he gave the order and left, but I was left deep in thought. Ying Qi, the garrison commander stationed year-round at the frontier, was unlike Lin Xiao, a taciturn man whose authority commanded respect without anger. Yet my promotion came through him, and the men under my command were assigned by him. When our squad recently eliminated a band of Hurong raiders during a patrol, he said little but rewarded me generously. I'd never seen Lin Xiao and Ying Qi interact much before, and occasionally friction even arose between their respective squads. Now it seemed, could this be a show for outsiders? Or perhaps for the Emperor? The thought lifted my spirits. It appeared even the seemingly loyal Ying Qi harbored hidden intentions. All the better. The more he opposed the Emperor, the more I liked it. My elder sister once said that no matter the circumstances, human hearts remain the greatest variable. But what about Ying Qi's? I would soon find out. Inside the general's tent, after Ying Qi and Lin Xiao finished allocating tactics, Ying Qi suddenly pointed to a small red dot on the map. Lin Xiao's voice was grave. The Hurong have assembled 16 elite regiments this time. Their rear defenses must be weak. This place is their most crucial granary. Scouts report a steady stream of supplies being transported here these past days. War demands bold moves, Ying Qi stated concisely. We propose dispatching an elite squad for a night raid. Murmurs rippled through the tent. It's a good idea, but it is indeed dangerous. We fear they might have set an ambush. Those barbarians plunder our goods daily, it's time to give them a taste of their own medicine. The only problem is selecting the right men. Ying Qi turned his gaze toward me. Though past 30, his eyes held an extraordinary depth and world-weariness, as if the desert winds and sands had ground away all trace of youthful spirit and vitality. Suddenly, I understood why Ying Qi wanted me involved. This was indeed a risky military move, yet also a rare opportunity that might never come again. What exactly was his relationship with Lin Xiao that he was willing to promote me like this? As these thoughts swirled, I found myself smiling. The fire crackled within the tent. Kneeling on one knee, I spoke clearly, this subordinate is willing to relieve the Lord's concerns. Eyes of all kinds turned toward me in the camp, but all I heard was Ying Qi's reply, good. The verdict was sealed. That night, I lifted the curtain and stepped out of the tent, only to pause slightly. There stood Ying Qi, scooping handfuls of yellow beans to feed a horse. This horse didn't look like a war horse, no saddle, no bridle. Yet it stood majestic and fierce, its hoofs treading the snow, radiating a raw, primal beauty. Unbidden, Lin Xiao's words came to mind. He had said the lady once released his prized colt. I returned to camp in silence. When I asked Lin Xiao about it the next day, he paused, then burst into laughter. Of course it couldn't be the same horse, but they must have been mother and child. Years ago, it did bring a sick foal back to camp. Ying Qi raised the little one bit by bit, never taming it, just feeding it for fun. I shouldn't have asked, but recalling the mistress's words, I felt I'd already found the answer. Lin Xiao's smile did indeed fade. Then, his lips curved upward, his expression difficult to read. Was it bitterness or relief? I didn't want to tell you this, but since I've already entrusted you to Ying Qi, it matters little now. Years ago, the keepsake his mother left him accidentally fell into the sea. Ying Qi searched for it for ages but gave up. She spent days diving in the ocean. We thought she was just playing, never realizing she was haunted by that loss. When she finally retrieved the jade pendant, she held it up and smiled at him. That was the moment I said sister resembled a goddess. Ying Qi stood beside me and hummed in agreement. Hurong was indeed up to no good. An entire tribe of cavalry lay in ambush there. But I had anticipated this. Unnoticed, I lay prone near the poplar grove, observing. Alone, I approached the camp to scout their defenses, planting numerous bottles of flammable oil along the way. After waiting patiently through half the night, when their vigilance was at its weakest, I gave a signal. My squad silently drew their bows. Whoosh! 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 Flames danced in my eyes, then spread rapidly. A whistle pierced the air. I spurred my horse forward, leading the charge into the thick, choking smoke. That night, the clamor of battle, the wails of the dying, and the crackling roar of flames filled the air. Seated astride my horse, I drew my bow without blinking, sending an arrow tearing through the night sky. The next day, blood streaking my face, I led a group of exhausted yet strikingly alert soldiers back to camp, dragging prisoners and provisions. No one dared meet my gaze, yet I calmly set down what I carried. Thud! It was the head of the enemy commander stationed there. Mission accomplished, I said flatly. A faint smile touched Ting Chi's usually stern face. Well done. You've earned your rest. From that day onward, the surprise assault squad I led earned the moniker Ashura among the Hurong tribes. All knew the Ashura army was elusive and invincible, like a dagger on the battlefield, always poised to strike at the heart. The name Sijuan echoed across the northern desert, even reaching the imperial capital. My unconventional tactics were cunning, yet ruthless in execution, routinely decapitating enemy commanders. This struck terror into most Hurong tribesmen. It was even said to stop children's nighttime crying. Rumors also spread of my foul temperament and stubbornness. Beyond a modicum of respect for my appreciative superior, Ting Chi, I frequently clashed with General Lin Shao. I was, in essence, a lone wolf. With such rumors circulating, compounded by the Imperial Astronomical Bureau's mysterious nighttime observation revealing an auspicious celestial sign, a natural star of command, blessing the Jing dynasty, the emperor's rewards reached the desert almost impatiently. I understood his intent. He wanted me to seize control of the Lin family's army, using me as a counterweight to Lin Shao. All this was anticipated and deliberately orchestrated by me. What I hadn't foreseen was how smoothly it would unfold. Imperial Astronomical Bureau. A natural military star. Standing beneath the desert sky, I gazed toward the direction of the imperial city. I believe in no heavenly mandate, no good fortune, and certainly not some so-called star of command. Such things have never been mine to claim. But I believe in Meng Xiqiong. Every stroke of luck in my life has been bestowed by the lady and my elder sister. This time is no different. Did she guess? She must have guessed. She's so intelligent. How much did she figure out? Did she see me suddenly disguise myself as a man to enter the barracks? Did she see someone named Sijuan suddenly rise to prominence? Did she see how everything differed from my past life? Could she have guessed I'd returned? If she did guess, would she come ask me? And if she did ask, what could I possibly say? The desert was parched, perpetually dry. Fortunately, a river ran alongside the camp, otherwise, even washing up would be a hassle. I stared blankly at my reflection in the water. My once fair skin had long since turned wheat-colored from wind and sun. I had grown taller and more robust, but more importantly, my body bore many scars. The deepest one on my abdomen nearly took my life. But I couldn't falter. So I endured the high fever, gritted my teeth through the bone-piercing pain of treatment, and the next day, I casually lifted the curtain as if nothing had happened, drawing cheers from the entire tent. Blades on the battlefield have no eyes. Even with unmatched martial prowess, I could never guarantee my sleeves would remain dust-free. The Sijuan of today bears no resemblance to Meng sitting. Would she even recognize me if she saw me again? I had no way of knowing. Lin Shao came to find me, a letter in hand. From your elder sister, he said. She inquires about you from time to time. This time, likely because father could no longer conceal the truth, coupled with whatever the Meng family said, she guessed. I looked down at the letter. It bore no signature, no name, only 4 characters. Blessed star of the general. His Majesty grows ever more senile. With no one around, Lin Xiao spoke these treasonous words without restraint. Now, with the floods ravaging Jiangnan, most of the dikes have collapsed. Displaced people are pouring into the capital in endless waves. The Hu-Rong tribes are stirring again. It's a time of internal turmoil and external threats, yet he insists on building a stargazing tower for his new consort Zhao. Who knows how much silver that will cost? I heard several ministers from the Ministry of Works and Ministry of Revenue dared to petition against it. He was displeased and had them demoted and dragged out for flogging. Now everyone in the capital lives in fear, not knowing who will be the next to die. I pondered for a moment. Is my elder sister still distributing soup? Of course she is. She even opened her personal treasury to fund relief grain for the flood victims in Jiangnan. People there have erected shrines to her in her lifetime. I smiled. In my previous life, there was no consort Zhao or stargazing tower. Now, with public resentment boiling over, the emperor's cruelty and irrationality stood in stark contrast to the empress's benevolence and magnanimity. My elder sister remains my elder sister, wiser than before, yet with a new edge of ruthlessness. But that's no bad thing. His Majesty won't stop here, I said. The more people try to stop him, the more he'll insist on building that star-plucking terrace. Not just building it, but making it magnificent. If cutting expenses isn't possible, then increase revenue. Just wait. This fire will soon reach us, I said, lifting the corner of my lips with a carefree smile. Lin Xiao frowned, then quickly realized, you mean he'll skim off military pay and supplies? In the midst of a great war, everything could be scarce, but the soldiers' provisions must never be lacking. Those in power couldn't possibly fail to understand this principle. His expression hardened. He shouldn't be that foolish. Our emperor, I scoffed, loves wielding both favor and fear. Even if he didn't intend it, those opposing the star-gathering tower will push him down that path. He believes all under heaven belongs to the sovereign. He believes soldiers dying for the nation is their duty. He'll deem the frontier's harsh cold inevitable. What's a little less food, a few fewer clothes? Bright and clear, the radiance of sun and moon. If I'm not mistaken, this consort Zhao is likely another auspicious star or noble destiny designated by the Imperial Astronomical Bureau, probably another scheme orchestrated by the eldest sister. Rebellion is indeed a capital offense, but people are driven to it. When people are starving, freezing, and facing constant death, it's easy for passion to cloud their judgment. And winter is approaching. She understood my meaning, planting a seed. Lin Xiao's face darkened completely, truly revolting. But my elder sister wouldn't treat soldiers' lives lightly, I stated with certainty. She will undoubtedly find ways to secretly supplement their rations. Then it will be up to us. This must not be made public, but the soldiers in the camp must be made to suspect. A greedy, selfish emperor who skimmed military pay, and a queen with a Buddha's mouth and a compassionate heart, pitying the world. The ruler of the realm, the people's choice. She was fighting for the people's hearts, and I had to add fuel to the fire. This shipment of provisions from the capital had its quantity halved, and the garments were all thin and flimsy. That scant cotton offered no protection against the cold. Within half a day, the entire camp knew the news. At midnight, the brothers under my command gathered around the fire, seething. How can this be fair? Those nobles in the capital feast on the finest foods and wear the finest clothes, while we might freeze to death here. Such words were tantamount to insubordination, yet I merely frowned, offering no rebuke. Once their complaints subsided, I rose. Enough. The rewards the emperor granted me remain untouched. Tomorrow, I shall distribute them all to you. And that fat sheep? We'll slaughter it to feast the troops. They exchanged glances. Sir, but... I waved my hand dismissively. It matters little if they disregard us. I won't let my brothers suffer hardship alongside me." At these words, even the usually rough-and-tumble men had tears welling in their eyes. The winter winds of the northern desert howled, cutting like knives across their faces. With supplies halved under such harsh conditions, the camp grew increasingly somber. Soldiers kept their heads down, silent, though murmurs grew louder behind closed doors. "This is like sending us to our deaths. We're only surviving because of Commander C's subsidies. General Lin and Captain Ng have already distributed their own provisions. How much longer can this last? Only a few officers even acknowledge our existence. Heard the Emperor wants to build a stargazing tower. That money could feed and clothe us for years. They don't see us as human." Fortunately, not long after, cartloads of supplies arrived silently under cover of night. Without an imperial edict, it clearly wasn't sent by the Emperor. So soldiers intercepted the supply carriers, demanding answers. Rumor has it the courier stammered for ages before finally revealing, after soldiers seized their carrier pigeons, that these provisions and garments were privately organized by Her Majesty the Empress. She had gathered donations from noble ladies and aristocratic women in the capital. They were still seeking more contributions and requested those in the know to keep it quiet. Indeed, the matter remained quiet, yet somehow, the entire garrison learned of it. The soldiers spoke of the Empress, saying, "Could she be a bodhisattva? The Empress truly is benevolent. I hear she also exerted herself for the recent floods in Jiangnan. When I return, I'll have my family erect a shrine to her." Though conditions had improved, I still had the soldiers feign hunger and cold. Hu Rong knew Emperor Jingqiao was withholding military pay, yet remained dormant. He must be planning a major move soon. If that's the case, why not play along? Let them believe we are truly weak and vulnerable. December. Heavy snow fell across the great desert. I stepped into the tent and saw Yingqi standing with his hands behind his back, staring blankly at a cloak hanging on the wall. The cloak was worn and old, yet Yingqi wore it on every campaign, never replacing it. "Lord Ng," I bowed. "You summoned me?" He waved me closer. "The desert has entered its snow season. Hu Rong won't miss this chance. They will launch their final assault. When they do, you will hold the main camp in my stead. I will lead the troops into battle." I froze, hesitation creeping into my steps. Yingqi had already turned away. Victory would be splendid, of course. But even if I fall in battle, I will tear a piece of flesh from the Hu Rong and cripple their strength. You know better than I what tactics to use against their retreating forces. I entrust the aftermath to you. You can handle it, can't you? I pressed my lips together, silent. Victory in this battle would be ideal, but defeat meant Yingqi was effectively handing all the credit to me, or perhaps he intended for me to succeed him, to rightfully take command of the Ng family army. But why? I know why you came here, Yingqi said. You wish to enthrone the Empress Dowager as the new emperor, is that not so? My eyes widened abruptly. You haven't even told Lin Xiao about this, have you? The tall man's expression remained impassive. Don't look at me like that. I'm not one to gossip. I didn't tell him. I didn't know what to say. Thank you, Lord Ng. No need for such formality, Yingqi said. I will help you. I had anticipated his assistance, yet I couldn't fathom the reason. Your sword technique. It resembles your mother's. His expression remained unreadable. 10 years ago, I wanted to lead my troops straight to the Golden Hall. You have more courage than I did. The Ying family had generations of loyal service, guarding the South Sea for years. Moreover, he carried the lives of every member of the Ying family on his shoulders. How could he be so reckless? Yingqi had never been reckless in his entire life. Before leaving, he asked me, "What are your names, you and your sister?" Didn't he know? I was puzzled, but replied, "My sister is Meng Xiqiong." "I am Meng Xiting." Ying Qi froze. He recalled that evening at sunset, sitting side by side on the coastal rocks. Lin Shijuan dangled her legs, asking, "Ying Qi, once we've subdued these Japanese pirates, what will you do?" He asked, "Do you like the sea?" "Of course." Lin Shijuan had beamed. "The capital is so dry. This place is much better. I've even told father, maybe I'll stay here to guard it for him, watching the tides rise and fall every day." Ying Qi had replied, "Then I'll stay with you." He remembered Lin Shijuan in her fluttering crimson robe, remembered her kneeling to receive the imperial decree, remembered the distant glance she cast his way just before departure. The island they guarded was known in ancient times as Cheong Island. She recited the poem, "Shore grasses and sandbank orchids, lush and verdant," saying that wherever water flowed, everything thrived. Would she miss it? She would. She left this world too soon, leaving not a single word behind. The two daughters she raised were named Xiqiong and Xiting. Thinking of Cheong, thinking of Ting, but never of you. How much she must have yearned for freedom in her life. Yet she was imprisoned in the capital, worn down by exhaustion and illness, passing away before her 30th birthday. They said she was dignified and aloof, but she was truly a radiant and brilliant person. Ying Qi, why haven't you taken me back to the Jade Isle yet? Ying Qi, after I'm gone, live joyfully. Remember to gaze upon the sea for me. But I never saw the sea again. Sudden agony gripped his heart, nearly choking his breath. I'm sorry. Clang! The broken sword fell to the ground. The figure of my old friend still lingered before my eyes. I long to buy osmanthus flowers and share wine together, yet it will never be like our youthful wanderings. Ying Qi's belongings were returned. A damaged jade pendant, a tattered cloak. One corner of the cloak bore an embroidered character, indistinct, resembling Yin, but I knew it was June. I gazed at them silently for a moment before rising. Countless soldiers stood before me in silent ranks, a sea of black uniforms. Their hawk-like eyes flashed with fury and grief. I raised the tiger token, "Hear my command, soldiers. Tonight we launch the final assault. We shall drown the Hurong in blood and avenge Lord Ying." "Yes, your Majesty." Truthfully, I had known all along that Ying Qi would die. Just as I had dragged the emperor into the flames that consumed him, he had set out for battle with death in his heart. I wanted to dissuade him, but upon reflection, I realized no one could change his resolve. How could I not see? He had no will to live. Perhaps the day his wife passed, he began preparing for this very moment. This lifetime, he waited for me. But what of the last? I would think no more of it. I promised Ying Qi, I would not let anyone else suffer the same fate. I would rescue my elder sister. The path he paved for me with his blood, I could not let his sacrifice be in vain. The night was deep when the signal fires blazed. The troops I led charged into the Hurong encampment. Enemy attack! Piercing screams rent the night sky, but it was already too late. This battle ended in a resounding victory for the Jing dynasty. Rumors spread throughout the capital that young general, appearing as if from nowhere, seemed divinely aided. He had charged into the Hurong camp and slain their leader with a single sword thrust. The Hurong suffered a crushing defeat, surrendered their banners, and sent envoys to seek peace. The star of war returned triumphant. Winter passed, and spring arrived. Lin Shao and I escorted the Hurong envoys bearing their surrender documents back to the capital in triumph. Unfortunately, along the way we encountered numerous displaced refugees and bandits, people rendered homeless by disasters. We suppressed these disturbances, which significantly slowed our return journey. General Xi's fame among the people grew ever greater, his prestige ever higher. His Majesty seemed deeply displeased by this. Lin Shao offered only a lukewarm response. When generals are in the field, they may disregard certain military orders. The emperor was left speechless. After all, we had just won a great victory and were still his meritorious subjects. At the same time, we received a secret report from the capital. The empress is with child, and turmoil has erupted within the palace. I folded the letter and cast it into the torch flame, lost in thought. With the crown prince yet to be designated and his majesty's limited offspring, should my elder sister bear this child, it would inevitably stir up turmoil in the court. But could she conceive his child, given her deep hatred for the emperor? Especially at such a coincidental time. Sure enough, I received her letter. Her tone remained unchanged, inquiring about my recent well-being and whether I was taking care of my food and clothing, only mentioning the child at the end. She wrote, "The child will be born at the most opportune moment." I understood what she meant. After quelling the rebellions across the land, our group finally returned to the capital. Along the way into the city, the people cheered. Seated atop my tall steed, silk flowers rained down upon me. Turning my head, I saw young girls and women smiling at me, some blushing. Lin Xiao quipped, a young military star with boundless future. I remained unmoved, my mind and eyes fixed solely on tonight's palace banquet. The banquet was held to reward us, the soldiers. This campaign had dragged on far too long. With my elder sister's assistance and the Imperial Astronomical Bureau occasionally praising me, my official rank had risen steadily. I had now become the youngest general of the chariot cavalry in the Jing dynasty. Not only that, but because the Lin family had fabricated my background, I was seen as pure and from humble origins. The emperor was extremely pleased with me, not only granting me a general's mansion but also bestowing box after box of rewards upon my residence. I knelt to accept the gifts, my gaze fixed straight ahead. The emperor, flushed unnaturally from wine, wore an expression of great delight. "Minister C, is there anything else you desire?" Without raising my head, I knew exactly what that repulsive face looked like: old, ugly, disgusting enough to make one vomit. "You are now a renowned young prodigy throughout the Jing dynasty," someone beside him spoke, their voice as gentle as spring water. "General C, lift your head. Let this palace see what rewards I might bestow upon you." It felt like yesterday. My hands trembled slightly, my eyes nearly reddening. Yet I slowly lifted my head to look at her. My elder sister remained as pure and gentle as ever, her complexion rosy like cinnabar, her jade-like face softly flushed. Yet after so long in high office, she carried an aura of unparalleled nobility. Her pregnancy was well advanced, her belly showing, her countenance serene, even radiating a Buddha-like grace. She looked at me, and I looked at her. We both knew how long it had been since we last met. A lifetime ago and in this very life. In just an instant, I lowered my head again. This humble subject desires nothing more than to pray for the emperor's 10,000 years, the empress's 1,000 years, and the prosperity and flourishing of the Jing dynasty. A well-spoken, honest lad, His Majesty declared with delight, bestowing further gifts. Midway through the palace banquet, the emperor felt unwell, and his eldest sister escorted him away. In my past life, he'd been robust at this stage. Now, his health was failing. Rumor had it he'd begun seeking immortality this lifetime, consuming all manner of elixirs in pursuit of eternal life. What a fool! I curved my lips and immediately distributed all the gifts among my brothers in arms. His Majesty would never know what Lin Xiao and I were truly doing while pacifying the rebellions. We were recruiting soldiers and horses, forging an iron cavalry. Everything was ready, all that seemed to be missing was a spark. Today I deliberately applied less of my disguise powder. Others might not notice, but how could my dear father fail to recognize me? At the palace banquet, I raised my cup from afar to the distracted Minister Meng. His eyes widened as if he'd seen a ghost. As I expected, he came to find me soon after. Ting, how could you? I personally poured him tea in the general's residence. Father, let's cut to the chase. The palace's situation remains uncertain. His Majesty's health is failing. My sister is about to give birth to a prince. It's time for us to stake our claim to the throne. Startled, he lunged forward to cover my mouth, only to freeze in place under my gaze. Sister has consulted the imperial physician. The child she carries is undoubtedly a boy, I said calmly. I know you have an agreement with the crown prince, but consider this, which would benefit the Meng family more, having your own grandson as heir, or the crown prince ascending? I believe you understand the stakes. You've lost your mind. He fumed. Do you realize you're committing treason? Daring to discuss matters concerning the crown prince. But I saw his eyes flicker. Clearly, he was considering it. I said no more, only dropping my final bombshell. His Majesty favors the Empress's son as crown prince. The eldest prince has already secretly recruited troops and is plotting rebellion. If father steps forward to testify, that would be a great merit in supporting the dragon. It would be enough to elevate father to the rank of one of the three dukes, and the Meng family would rise to new heights. Thud. A storm was brewing outside the window, thunder and lightning flashing. I clearly saw the madness and greed growing in his eyes, like a giant beast lurking in the darkness. Such is the human heart. I was not surprised. His Majesty's health deteriorated further. It was said the memorials these days were all approved by the Empress. He spent day after day in Consort Zhao's palace, either seeking immortality or cultivating atop the stargazing tower. Though the ministers were anxious, the Empress handled state affairs with such order and efficiency that it brought them some measure of comfort. I returned to the Lin residence. What exactly are your intentions? General Lin's expression was complex. I had thought you sought to rescue your sister through your own abilities. Faking death, leaving the palace for a pilgrimage, escaping. There are countless ways for a person to vanish. Yet judging by my sisters and my actions, we clearly harbor no such plans. I did not answer. Uncle Lin should know. Lin Xiao had witnessed me raising private troops, forging armor, and allowing treasonous rumors to spread unchecked within the army, each a capital offense. Yet he stood by me through it all. I didn't need to tell him, he understood. But this. General Lin sighed heavily. Qing'er is a woman. Why not my elder sister? My gaze burned with intensity. You permitted the lady to take the battlefield. You regarded her as your pride, proof you do not look down upon women. The lady excels in both military strategy and literary arts. My elder sister surpasses her teacher. See? She performs admirably, does she not? Why not my elder sister? He fell silent. Whenever Lin Shijuan's name came up, everyone in the Lin family would fall silent. I turned to see Lin Xiao already weeping openly. Father, Ying Qi is dead, he said. I knew he couldn't go on living. Ever since Shijuan passed that year, he couldn't go on. The Lin family was at its zenith then. For the sake of so-called imperial favor, we failed to unite him and Shijuan. But what of Siting and Xiqiong now? The children have strived this far, why can't we lend them a hand? A long silence followed. General Lin bent down to help me up. In his palm lay a tiger token. From this day forward, the Lin family army will follow your commands. His voice was deep and resolute. Go, child. Do what we failed to accomplish. After days of torrential rain, the Empress's due date finally arrived. That night, while the common folk slept peacefully in their homes, 100,000 elite troops encircled the capital, leaving no room for escape. Those in the know kept their doors tightly shut. Loyal ministers frowned deeply, sighed heavily, yet still chose to stand idly by. As black cavalry pressed against the city walls, a bloody massacre erupted within the palace. The capital had changed hands. Only when every palace guard had been slain and the emperor's closest attendants had lost their heads was the pale-faced monarch roused from his slumber. Sitting trembling on the golden throne, he pointed an accusing finger at me and roared, "Traitor! Do you dare rebel?" Unfazed, I waved my hand, and the bound crown prince and Minister Meng were flung to the floor. A stack of secret letters scattered, each stamped with their private seals. I declared, Your Majesty, the Crown Prince and Minister Meng conspired to rebel, the evidence is irrefutable. I arrived too late to protect you, forcing me to storm the palace with my sword. I beg your forgiveness. At these words, Minister Meng immediately began wailing, wah, wah. I lifted his chin with the tip of my shoe. Father, is there something you wish to say? But you are truly too foolish. Your daughter has no desire to hear your words. From the moment he chose to be the bait, feigning cooperation with the Crown Prince, his fate was sealed. I couldn't bear to look at him. I thrust my sword through his heart. He was nothing but insignificant cannon fodder. Except, in the previous life, we were the pawns. In this life, we became him. You're a woman, the Emperor screamed, then quickly regained his composure. What is your relationship with the Empress? The Lin family, is the Lin family plotting rebellion? Quite so, Your Majesty, I replied with a smile. This humble servant heard that Your Majesty intends to name the youngest son born to the Empress as Crown Prince. I have therefore ventured here to retrieve the imperial edict. Rain dripped steadily, tracing my jawline before pulling on my armor. I drew my sword. Your Majesty, shall you write the edict yourself, or would you prefer this servant to assist? Save the Emperor! Save the Emperor! The panicked Emperor grabbed Consort Zhao beside him, trying to flee. But Consort Zhao deftly wrenched free, threw him hard onto a chair, bound him, then retreated behind me, bowing respectfully. Miss Ting, Consort Zhao said. Her Majesty instructed me to protect your safety. I asked, how is Her Majesty? All is well. Both mother and child are safe, Consort Zhao replied without flinching. The Emperor still screamed, but I grew impatient. Stepping forward, I chopped off one of his fingers to force him to write the edict. His trembling hand scrawled the characters, his spirit utterly broken. I studied this decrepit, senile ruler. Your Majesty, I said, looking down on him once the edict was complete, there was a time you were my nightmare. But I must say, had I not wanted death, I could have killed you then and walked away unscathed. He stared blankly, unable to grasp my meaning. But I had already turned and left. The first rays of dawn pierced the imperial palace walls. The storm had ceased. Funeral bells tolled. An infant's cry pierced the air. Your Majesty has passed away. It was all over. Overnight, the Crown Prince and Minister Meng had conspired to rebel. Fortunately, the Empress had foreseen it and, acting for the greater good, uncovered the evidence. General Si arrived in time to rescue the Emperor, and together with General Lin, they secured the imperial city, quelling the uprising. The traitor perished on the spot, while His Majesty, advanced in years, was driven to his death by grief. That very night, the Empress gave birth to a prince, who was proclaimed Crown Prince by imperial decree. A nation cannot exist a single day without a ruler. The Crown Prince ascended the throne, but being too young, the officials petitioned for the Empress Dowager to assist in governing. Unable to refuse and compelled by the will of the people, she assumed the role of regent, ruling from behind the curtain. During the Empress Dowager's reign, taxes were reduced, corvée labor abolished, special imperial examinations held, and young officials promoted. The Jing dynasty flourished. General Si Jun's true identity was revealed, she had been disguised as a man. Yet, owing to her glorious military achievements and the Empress Dowager's magnanimity, she was pardoned. Hailed as a model for all women, she was celebrated throughout the land. Another spring arrived. I came to bid farewell to my sister. Sister, I wish to see the South Sea, I said. Please grant me your permission. My elder sister, holding the young crown prince, looked up at me upon hearing this. Her pregnancy had been a sham, this child was an orphan she had adopted and raised from infancy. We named him Sijuan. Sijun tugged at my sleeve with his wide, round eyes, calling out to me in his baby talk, "Auntie." I quickly picked him up. Yes. The child's features bore a faint resemblance to the lady, and the tiny red mole on his wrist was an exact replica. My elder sister sighed. "I knew you would go. I couldn't stop you. I was only waiting for you to ask." I remained silent. The mistress was buried at the Meng family estate. I thought she might not approve, so I planned to take her and Yingqi to the seaside instead. One was laid to rest in the northern wilderness, the other buried in the capital. But I believed their spirits would long to return to the South Sea, free and untethered. "Very well, go then. I have no time for such things, but you do. You can wander wherever you wish." She gazed at me gently. "When Sijun grows older, we'll take grandfather back to live by the South Sea. We'll visit the place where mother grew up." I cracked a smile. Before leaving the capital, my elder sister saw me off. She asked, "Ting, I never asked, and you never said, but I want to know, did it hurt?" I froze, then countered, "Sister, did it hurt you?" She smiled, tears welling in her eyes. It hurt. It hurt terribly. I was forced to take my own life. In my final moments, I thought only of how heartbroken my little sister would be, and how utterly worthless my life had been. Later, my spirit watched you enter the palace. Watched you force yourself to do things you hated. Watched you drag that beast into the flames. With your martial arts, you could have escaped, but you didn't. My heart ached so terribly. Every day during that time, I prayed to the Buddha, begging that a Ting never have to endure such a painful life again. Then I returned. I vowed this time I would protect you, protect myself, protect the Lin family. I would ascend to the highest seat and avenge us. But I never imagined you would return too. You joined the army, slaying countless foes. Uncle said you suffered many wounds, but I couldn't see them. I said earnestly, "Sister, yet I am happy in this life. I can finally be of service to you. Aiding is willing to be your sword for a lifetime. To be your hound and tiger, your unstoppable blade." Suddenly, she reached out and embraced me tightly. "But I only want Aiding to be my sister. None of this is necessary." I smiled again, "Then I'll be your sister's little sister for life." The road out of the city was lush with greenery. The sky was clear and bright, the breeze gentle and pleasant. Alone on horseback, my steed trod the snow with its 4 hooves. It was very sensible, glancing back occasionally at the pack on my back. I patted its head, "It's fine, I won't lose it." The contents of my pack were simple: 2 small boxes, a cloak, a jade pendant, and a sword. I was escorting the girl in crimson and the boy who never acted on impulse back to their home. Springtime outing, apricot blossoms blowing full upon my head. Thinking of Chion, thinking of Ting, and thinking of you too. The story ends here. Thank you all for your company. See you in the next chapter.